And I think people forget that when they
Mhm.
hire service-based professionals, because
Yes.
it's when you hire me to do your brand, it's not just what you're getting out of me doing your brand. It's that I have an open door to all these people that you might be interested in knowing as well,
Yes, 100%. You
or the
never know who that
podcast,
person's connected to. Yes,
or any of
absolutely.
that. So like there is a buy-in at that level. And
Oh, yeah.
that's not a bottom of the barrel pricing kind of thing, because I want to work with brands that are at this echelon, right?
Yes. Yep.
It is crazy. But even like networks like this, like through us connecting over the podcast, like
Yeah.
it is so wild how connected people are. I don't even know if this is like a question at all. It's just kind
Yeah.
of an observation. But
Yes.
like you're planting the seeds that you don't even know what's going to grow out of them.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like we were kind of talking about this before we even jumped on to
Hmm.
record. It's like we know all the same people too. Like we've kind of formed this weird little marketing I don't know, we just like know so many of the same
So
people
we're
and
all part of the Illuminati. It's a
yes,
marketing
basically.
Illuminati.
Yeah. If you guys want to join, it'll be $5,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
But yeah, it's just because we have all connected in some way or another through business, through TikTok, through the podcast. And it's just like, I don't know, this little girl, what do we call it at one time? Like little girl gang is like
Totally.
amazing.
But also,
Yes.
like in an alternate universe where the internet didn't exist, would we
Yeah.
not have all found each other at the same
Oh,
conference anyway?
I was gonna say we totally would have. You know, we would have. We would have vibed together because we would have been at the same taco restaurant drinking margaritas. Let's be
Exactly. And those are
honest.
your people. And so I think people get
Yes.
so discouraged with online
Yeah.
marketing, and they get so
Yeah.
discouraged with promoting themselves or selling themselves online. And it's like, you just need to go where your people are, because
Yeah.
like you can't try to please all the people all the time, because that's a mess. But like I always put myself in, like, if this were a real life example where I was
Mhm.
walking into some, maybe it's okay, we'll pretend that women had rights for all of history. But
Yes.
if it's the 60s, Mad Men style, and there's some kind of
Yep.
advertising conference, like I would be going to your guys' talks anyway,
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yep. Mhm. 100%. Oh,
It's
yeah, I
so
totally get
crazy
it.
to think about that, because if all the internet stuff were to go away tomorrow, how about this is a great question, actually.
Yeah.
If the internet, as we know it, were to just like disappear overnight and everyone had complete amnesia, what would you be
Yes.
doing for a job?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would still be because this is again, we're going to loop this back into things we've
Hmm.
talked about. My unique value proposition is that I'm very left brain and right brain. I feel like I'm 50%
Same.
both. So I would still find myself in some sort of marketing capacity. Obviously, it wouldn't be digital. You brought up Mad Men. I was like, that would so be me. I would probably be that woman in the boardroom, like really pushing my way through,
Same.
even though I wasn't allowed, kind of
Same.
thing. But then I also bring that systems analytics and process. So I could see myself still working. Marketing fits me so well.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that would look like without the internet, which is funny because I even studied traditional marketing in school because I went to college a long time ago and we didn't even learn about social media marketing was a thing when I was in school. And that's not what I learned about. So,
Hmm.
just learning the research aspects of it and the math behind it, but also bringing that creative side. I think I would still be in marketing. I
I
was like,
think I
I
would
think I would.
too.
Yeah,
I think I would
100%.
too. Except like when I have to write a strongly worded email, I tell myself like, oh, I could totally have been a lawyer.
Oh, yes, I was gonna say, I definitely have a way with words sometimes, and I'm like, not a lawyer necessarily. I could
No.
have been some kind of amazing executive assistant. Like,
Yes.
I was like, I would definitely kill it there for sure.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yep.
No, it's so interesting. Okay, so let's talk, because you're very privy to the Gen Z TikTok
Yes.
generation. And I
Yep.
don't get to talk this that often with a lot of people. But what do you think are Gen Z's greatest strengths and greatest weaknesses as they enter the workforce?
Yeah, so I think the one thing that I love about Gen Z and that I'm a millennial. I'm like slightly towards the older millennial side. Um But the thing that they do so well that we don't, boundaries.
Yes.
I think that is gonna be so important for them when they're going into the workforce because now millennials, we are these burnt out recovering perfectionists. Just the way that we were raised in society and the way that just all the things that we went through. Gen Z, I think it's absolutely amazing that they're setting these boundaries, they're following their passions, and they will literally, I love it because I see it on TikTok all the time. They will quit a job for no reason whatsoever. And
Literally.
and they'll be like, nah, the boss talked to me the wrong way. I'm leaving right
Oh
now. And
my
I'm
gosh,
like,
I'm watching my
what?
parents go through this and it's brutal.
And I'm like,
Brutal.
I think it's going to be, that's the positive and negative. I think it's both
True.
a pro and a con because pro wise, they're not going to they aren't going to tolerate a lot of BS that we
Yeah.
tolerated.
Yep.
But in the same sense, I'm like, this could also be harmful in that we sometimes when things get hard, we should still follow it through. There are times where you can't just up and quit and leave stuff. And I don't want to say that that's a generalization about the whole generation, but I could see that being an issue because of the instant gratification, the nature of their entire generation. It's always been instant, instant, instant. Whereas I remember a time without the internet. And I know that
Mhm.
sounds so weird and makes me sound like a boomer, but I'm like, that instant gratification sometimes can be a hindrance. So I think that's going to
Totally.
be the positive and the negatives for them.
Yeah, I think you're so right. You hit the nail on the head because
Yeah.
in the way that I'm almost jealous of Gen Z for how
Yes.
sure they are of themselves,
Yep.
like very sure of themselves and their identity and their beliefs and
Yep.
their talking about their mental health. Like that's something that we didn't
So
have.
amazing.
We did not have those types of leaders as examples. What did we
Oh,
have? We had
absolutely. No.
America's Next Top Model. We had Lizzie McGuire. We
Yep.
had that your
And
whole life is supposed to be a
yep.
romantical, amazing, wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And you go to this college and that gets you the job. Not
Yep.
you don't just go get a job. You have to get a job
Yeah.
because of the degree that you
Co
had.
Yep. Yep.
And I think that
Mhm.
that it's nice to turn that on its head, but it's also kind of created a culture of like, oh, if I don't like this right here, right now, I don't have to do it right here, right now. And I don't have
Yeah.
any, there's no reason for me to see this through.
Yes. Yeah, that could be the hindrance there, and it's like I again, pros and cons of both in that aspect, but it's like, sometimes we do have to see through the hard things. That's how I have a business because I was in the trenches for so long doing things that I absolutely hated doing. It shifted my mindset, shifted who I am, and shifted my business into what it is today. And it's
Totally.
like the fruit I think where Gen Z is going to have a leg up on us in that aspect is that they're going to get there faster. It's not going to take them the 10 years that it took me to get here. But I also think there's some lessons that you just got to learn the hard way,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Wor- I've,
Yeah.
yeah, I've worked that toxic marketing environment where beer cart Fridays, pizza, whatever, bean bags that cost more than my salary increase for the year, it shaped me as a person. It was
Totally.
don't get me wrong, it sucked in the moment, but I look back at that and I'm like, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't go through those things. So
Well,
I
and
think
you
that's going to be
you
interesting.
understand how the people that hired you thought that that's what you wanted.
Yes, yep, yep,
Right?
which is
Like you can
so
see
fascinating.
and you can see how their generation's like, "Oh, these millennials are so entitled. They want like
Yes,
my dad says this all the time. Oh, you want your nap pod?" Like he thinks
yes,
that that's ridiculous. He's like, "We would never talk about our feelings at work." Like, ew.
yes,
Like
yeah,
so pros and cons, but I think it does beg the question of like where is that line in the sand of what's professional, what's unprofessional.
yeah,
Like, is it professional for me to show up on a video call with my client with like in workout clothes with my baseball cap on, my dog running around in
yeah,
the background and like drinking a Spindrift soda? Like,
yeah,
probably no. Probably
yeah,
no. But
yeah.
also my clients are showing up exactly that way as well.
Yeah, so I think that just goes to show we're going to have to define what that is. I'm very much my clients know, my followers know that I am always in like right now I have workout gear from here down. That's what I'm in right now and I'm like that's the way I live and I only wear jeans. Like even when I get up on stage and present, most of the time I'm in jeans and it's just like so I think it's going to be interesting to see this level of professionalism shift in whatever ways or for instance my cursing. I did get some recent feedback. I warned them ahead of time that I curse, and I still kept it as PG-13 as I can. And still, there was one old guy in the audience who didn't like the fact that I said shit. And I was like, I was just copying a TikTok sound. So it's
Yeah.
like things like that. It'll be very interesting to see how that goes for
It will
sure.
be. I mean, I like to be cheeky about it because that's just my personality. Like my
Me too.
Facebook, the podcast is called Kiss My Aesthetic. It's like a riff
Yes.
on Kiss My
It's my
Ass. Like
ass.
that's
Exactly.
what we're going for here. So
Yes.
if that's gonna piss you off, like okay.
I'm
Like
not your person.
even
Yeah.
my pop-up on my website is like, let's see that aesthetic. And it's like the peach emoji.
Yes. I love it.
Like I just
So
went
good.
for it. And I know that
Yep.
that probably turns people off. But like,
Yeah.
but is that kind of okay? Like kind of yeah.
It is. I think so because I'm like, you're either going to repel or attract your ideal audience, and that's what we want.
Right.
Because that person that is going to be offended by the fact that I drop an F bomb, they will never purchase my high ticket offer.
No.
Never. If
And then
that's
it
what they're
gives
offended
them
by,
space
yeah,
and you're giving them space to go find somebody that they do align with. That
yeah,
does like
exactly.
speak the way that they want them to speak.
And
And
it ain't gonna be me.
yeah, no.
Not gonna be
Same.
me.
Oh my
Yes, I
gosh.
totally get it.
No, we could talk about all this stuff for forever. We're already like 54 minutes in, which is always
Yes.
crazy to me,
I know, I
how
know.
quickly it goes. But we
Yep.
have to know because we're asking all the podcast guests in season two, what makes your brand particularly bragworthy?
Yeah, so for me, I think right now, what makes it brag-worthy is the fact that I'm going through all these transitions that a lot of business owners are either currently going through or want to go through or have been through, and I'm talking about it.
Hmm.
Recently I've been putting out a lot of content. I was burnt out for 6 months, and burnout is such I don't know, a stir-worthy word right now, and, like, people just associate it, and it's like but I'm like, "I'm gonna talk about what actually happened, what I did, and how I got through it, and how I was feeling," and I think that's kind of how people are resonating with me right now, that I'm more than just this content strategist, that I am a human being, and while our businesses might be different, you're still gonna be able to resonate with the things that I'm doing. I'm producing all this content for people to learn from. So I think
Hmm.
that's what makes my brand brag-worthy right now. So that's
Love
been
that.
super fun. If you asked me that a year ago, the answer would have been completely
I
different, but that's where I am
know.
now.
I know. That's the crazy
Yeah.
thing. No, I'm kind of future tripping on the idea of knowing that I'll probably hit a burnout. And then you
Yeah.
work all this hard for what? Like, we're
Yes.
working this hard, we're making all this money for what? Like, no
Mhm.
thanks. So it's been perfect. My sister and I have totally teamed up where she's booking destination weddings and I go
Yes.
as her assistant. And I was like,
That's
great, we
amazing.
can work when we want to work and then we can not work
Yeah.
when we don't want.
Yep.
But I was messaging some of my friends who are in the industry. I was like, oh well, when I go on my sabbatical this summer, and they're like, what the fuck? You're going on a sabbatical? And I was like,
You're like,
that's what I'm
"Yes.
calling it. That's what I'm
Yep.
mentally training myself of what it
Yes.
is. But I'm traveling from May 21st to June 8th. New York,
Yeah."
Paris, London, Amalfi Coast,
Like, "I'm
and
not
then
gonna have
back.
time."
Oh
That's
my god.
amazing.
And so I'm gonna be like, yeah, this is my I need to go be inspired.
Like, write it off as inspiration, it's
Literally, literally,
fine.
literally.
Yes.
What's one thing that you think you do particularly well? And maybe what's one thing that you'd like to get better at? Maybe it's scheduling yourself a sabbatical.
Yes, I was gonna say the thing that I do particularly well recently is going to be it's gonna be a little cliche video content. I have
Yeah.
really started to find my obviously analytics go up and down, but I have found that I can really not only educate people on video content, but I've really started to find my power in my voice through video, which has been so fun. And it's not perfect. I know I'm not going to hit a million views. I know all these things, but that doesn't matter. And I'm like, I know that I'm transforming at least one person's life through my videos, and I think that that is something that I'm very, very good at. The thing that I need to get better at, I would say probably right now is learning how this kind of is more personal, learning how to rest adequately.
Oh,
So
same.
coming out of that burnout, I will literally schedule rest time for myself, and I will go lay on the couch. I'll go lay in bed and rest, but my mind will keep going. And it'll be like, you should be doing X, Y, and Z. You should be. And I'm like, that's not true rest. So I'm working on it, definitely in therapy for it. We love a good mental health check in,
Mhm.
but I'm like, that's
Mhm.
definitely, I'm working on it. As I'm coming out of this burnout, I'm putting pen to paper and trying to figure it out, but it's still very hard. Very, very hard.
Tuesday on the Peloton bike, doing the thing.
Yes.
Like doing I'm like, "Oh, I'm getting my workout. This is great. Just got a
Yep.
Peloton." Listening to the song, I was like, "Oh my god, we need to use this song for a TikTok." And I reached over to grab
Yes.
my phone and I messaged it
Yes.
to my team member. I was like, "Can you just bookmark this song so it can come?" Because like
Yes.
clearly my brain doesn't know how to like
Shut off.
compartmentalize, which is
Mhm.
both a superpower and an Achilles heel.
It is 100%. Absolutely. So that's my biggest thing right now, and suggest entrepreneurs to do the same. And if you
Yes,
struggle with it, whatever your method is, for me, it's journaling and therapy. If for you, it's meditation and affirmations, whatever that looks like for you. And that might sound woo woo, but there are some practical things in there because
totally.
rest is so important, especially if you're in the season that we're in. And I think you and I are around the same age as well. That we came from such a culture of this burnout, this
Uh-huh.
perfectionism, this work until we die kind
Girl
of thing.
boss.
Yes,
Hashtag
the
girl
girl boss,
boss.
the hustle culture. And I'm like, we need to come out of that. And it is so hard to reprogram your brain for sure, but
Or people
working on
ask
it.
you, "Oh, how have you been?" "I'm busy."
Yes.
Why is that an
Yeah.
acceptable answer?
I That's not even an emotion either. It's
No!
like I'm like, "How have you been?" is normally, "I'm great, I'm doing well."
Right.
No, busy. I'm like,
Busy.
"Really?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
go-to
Ugh.
as well.